What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Planet Soccer channel here on YouTube. Matchweek 17 we are talking about. I can't believe this season's almost 50% of the way over. We are almost to the reinforce and reinvigorate window in January. Each week is just really packed with storylines at this point, as if the Premier League isn't always packed with storylines, but the chess matches within the game, especially with injuries and everything, really start to unfold at this point in the season, while teams are kind of holding their breath until January. It feels like both of us feel that a lot. Like just get
January's
to
gonna get here soon
January.
enough.
Yeah,
survive and
yeah,
advance through January and just get it over with.
exactly.
Yeah,
We've got three games
I'm
we're talking about
super.
today. Dylan, three
Uh,
games we're talking about today. Dylan, go ahead and get us.
yeah, no,
What do you
it's
think?
kind of a new format for us. So I'm kind of excited. We did pick three games we either feel strongly about outside of our matches, or were really good matchups, and then we did stick a fourth one in there because NBC called us, got us on the horn, and said, "Hey, we're really trying to help this up. Can you help us out?" So we're
Yeah,
just
we do have
doing
three
doing
or
the
four.
doing the good work for for NBC here. We'll include that one. I'm sure you guys know which one we're talking about, but we'll kick it off with Brighton and Arsenal. First time they've played this year. Two teams a bit different on form. Obviously, we all know Arsenal did just drop one of their first matches of the year to Aston Villa at Villa Park, who has been just absolutely absurd at home, and we'll get into that in one of our next match previews. But at home for Arsenal is not necessarily a recipe for success against Brighton. Brighton actually has the highest win percentage at the Emirates of any team in the Premier League since the Emirates Open, which I found quite interesting.
Hmm.
Last year, that the 3-0 thrashing at the end of the year certainly sticks out. Arsenal is really trying to finish a push to win the league, and yeah, after that Brighton match, it was pretty much over. So a lot on the line here.
Yeah,
Two
because
teams
we had
outside of
Norwich.
that.
We had Norwich left at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we have I think this one's pretty interesting. Like I said, two teams kind of going
Yeah.
in opposite directions right now. Arsenal, outside of that Villa loss, has been spectacular since that loss to Newcastle. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they can bounce
Spectacular
back
might be
at
strong,
home.
but sure.
They look very solid. The Luton win, I know they had to get a stoppage time winner against Luton, but it is still a road match in the Premier League that you
Yeah.
get a late winner. They've been pretty impressive to me since that Newcastle defeat, but Brighton is no easy task, that's for sure, especially apparently playing at home against Brighton for Arsenal.
Definitely. I think, with Arsenal, uh, I try to touch on it every time that they win. They're starting to win games ugly, not like they won them more last year where it was just flashy and Odegaard was everywhere and Saka's still having, I mean, he's still having a great season, but there's some convolution within what Arsenal's trying to do. They brought a lot of really good players in to win trophies, and they might figure it out at some point, but it's still kind of in the process of being figured out. With Brighton, they're kind of, I'm trying to compare what Brighton to, like, from an American perspective, but Brighton has offloaded a bunch of players. They're going to rebuild, but it's kind of year one of that. Bring in our new $100 million midfielders that'll be sold in 3 years. Like, I think the start of the year Brighton had, we've expected more, and especially after last year. But this is probably where this Brighton team, like, actually is talent wise. But they're also a team that can beat this Arsenal team. Arsenal's, like you said, it's gotten a lot of ugly wins versus some not great opponents. I mean, Tottenham also won late versus Luton and Sheffield, so every game is tough, but they've also looked better in their games versus those teams than Arsenal sometimes does. So this game will honestly tell me a lot about Arsenal because they've had a pretty easy
Yeah,
schedule. Brighton can thrash you if they're on their game. So I think this, as far as all the games this weekend, like, we learned the most about Arsenal this week than this is like their week to say, okay, yeah,
no,
we can
I
also
completely agree.
beat.
Yeah, it feels like it's got to be a bounce back spot. It feels like a game they have to win 2-0,
Mm,
3-1, some sort of convincing fashion, to kind of put to bed the loss at Villa and that struggling win against Luton. So yeah, I mean, I think I have been pleasantly surprised in a weird way, a little bit, kind of, just a tiny bit, in how Havertz has looked the last 5 or 6 games that he's appeared in. He's kind of starting to find a role within the team.
Mhm.
which I think we both that signing seemed really kind of off the wall and didn't seem to fit the system. But he's slowly kind of finding his way into the side. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing for me is if Jesus is healthy, I think they can threaten for the league. If not, I don't think Nketiah or Havertz playing in that striker role is enough for them. So they need to keep Jesus healthy, put him in bubble wrap after the games. But I agree. I think this is going to be a huge learning week for Arsenal here.
Yeah, I don't think they need to do it convincingly. I think they just need to beat Brighton. Um, because it's it's kind of that next echelon of teams that they lost to Villa. They drew Man City, or no, they beat Man City, didn't they? We talked about this. They did beat Man City
Yes.
early on. Um, I digress. I think this is a topic for another day, but with the Jesus striker thing, like Arsenal's always heavily tied to strikers. I'm just like, what do you do with Jesus then? I guess he's hurt a lot, so like it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
really
You just
matter.
you
But
just need a second. Like you just need a
like
second.
when
Just like Newcastle needs a third. Newcastle has two great ones. They just can't stay healthy. They have a really
they
good
add
striker
up
that
to
fits their
one great
team.
one because of their availability.
Right, and for him, because of his availability, he adds up to half of one. Because Nketiah,
Yeah,
yes, he scored in the Champions League this week, but he's not a striker that can win you a Premier League if you have to start him for
yeah,
3 months out of the year. And with Jesus, you almost assume you're going to miss him for a total of 3 months at some point. So
yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing for me for Arsenal moving forward. Declan Rice has been phenomenal. He's always been phenomenal, but he's really fit into the side really nicely. And I think he's obviously been a huge part of their success this year.
yeah, definitely. As far as the coaching matchup goes, it's interesting. You got two really young, fiery guys. I think they both really want to get one over on the other this weekend. I can see a temper tantrum from especially Arteta if things
Well,
don't
that's
go
every
their way.
week. That's not really saying
Yeah,
much, but yeah.
that's true. But I know Deserby internally, he's like, all right, we need to get back and to our style and like let's just beat Arsenal, you know.
This is kind of the duel
Um,
for the Man City job every time they play in my head. It's like whoever looks more impressive against the other is going to get the City job when Pep leaves. I think it's way more likely to be De Zerbi than Arteta for a multitude of reasons, but they are kind of the two names that are floated around the most for City. So it's kind of fun to see them head off.
yeah. You move on to the second game. It is Villa versus Brentford. Brentford, they're a team. They've kind of been that ninth place team for the last 2 years. They're on a poor run of form right now. They've lost
Very.
Mblemo for a time, who was basically been their Tony this year. He's been phenomenal. And I'm pretty sure he's still down and out for this weekend. Villa's kind of been the flavor of the month with wins over Arsenal and Man City. Um, but they're not the same team on the road.
Very much.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement. Um, so I don't know. Similar to Arsenal, this game will tell us a lot about Villa. And you know, if you got it when you're healthy and you're challenging for top four, you got to beat teams like Brentford, even on the road. So it's just impossible to say a bad thing about Villa right now. Dylan, where do you see this maybe going awry for them, other than it being an away game, if at all?
I think the key for them is the first half. In the first 30 minutes of the match, they average the most, or they have the most total goals of any team in the Prem right now. And then in that final 15 minutes of the first half, they've yet to concede a goal. So first half is super key for them. They really need to get out on a front foot and maintain that lead going into halftime, because when they do that, they're typically able to hold on to those leads in the second
Yeah.
half. But I think the biggest story is it being on the road. Like they're
Mm.
far and away, well, not far and away because they've played one more match than Liverpool at home, but Liverpool and Villa are far and away, those two combined, the best teams at home this year. But Villa's sitting ninth on the road. And if you truly want to contend for the title, like we flirted about in our last week's recap, you got to win this game. You
Yeah.
absolutely. This is it seems dramatic, seems early. We're sitting at December 15th saying you got a must win game this weekend. But if you're truly trying to challenge for the title, you have to take 3 points here, and a draw
Not even
at
challenge for the
absolute
title. I
minimum.
think top four, you know, because I mean, Tottenham's about to
Yeah,
get healthy.
you, you
Newcastle's
you
going to get
could
healthy.
you could get away with the draw here and still make top
Yeah.
four. I think. I don't think it's
Yeah.
quite as dire just to get top four, but at some point they're going to have to start winning games on the road if they do want to get in the top four.
Yeah. They have to maximize their points while they're healthy and other teams aren't. That's so
Yeah.
key.
Absolutely. And Ollie Watkins was banged up for like a week there, but that's really been their biggest injury concern. He's been phenomenal. He has the third
Yeah.
most goal contributions. Kind of a fun match for him, obviously coming from Brentford, coming over. It was 21, I think, somewhere 21 maybe. The move to Villa. So there's a lot of interesting storylines, but the biggest thing for me is it feels like a virtual must win for Villa on the road, just to start showing a little bit more teeth away from Villa Park than they have at home, because they're a really good team. I think they talent wise and manager wise match up with damn near everybody in the league. Yes, they're probably not quite as rawly talented as City or Liverpool, but I
Or
think
have the same market value on
right,
players. But
feel
yeah,
fully confident in this team, especially under Emery, challenging hard for top four and possibly even second or outside shot at a title chance. So, but this is virtually a must win if they want to give it a real run at the title.
yeah. Last thing I'll say on this, it's funny because that formula that Villa has, the score early and then come out of halftime and hold that and don't let teams kind of get a breath of air. That's a good formula to win on the road if you can implement it on the road. Like that's what you want to do. So it's kind of interesting that they just haven't been able to do that and get results on the road like their stats show they should in those instances. Those are two for our, if we have any kind of newish or flirting with being soccer fans out there, like protecting the ends of halves, like the last 10
It's
minutes,
huge.
next 10 minutes, it's massive, just as important as the last 15 of the game. So you see a lot of goals scored right before the half or right out of the break. So if you end up watching more soccer, just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and
Um, yeah,
one last thing on Villa.
sure.
Like I don't want to overly harp on their away record. They are still sitting ninth on the away
Yeah.
table. But if you really want, like, and I think coming into the season, that's exactly what we would kind of expect from them. Probably finish
Yeah.
fourth in the home table, ninth in the away table, finish sixth. So
Hmm.
by no means are they like having an absolute stinker. Like Newcastle sitting in 16th. Newcastle has one
Yeah.
road win. I understand what bad away fixture teams look like, and they're not bad. They just aren't nearly as formidable on the road. So don't
And
need
when you're
Villa
sitting in
fans in the
third
comments
place,
coming at me about like, oh my God, we're not that bad. I get it. Your goal differential is -5, but you're sitting in ninth on the road, so it's not
yeah,
the end of the world. But if you
you're
want to
gonna have
kind of
more of a
take that next step,
you're gonna have a microscope on you when you're sitting third, and you're if you're less than six really in either home or away form, it's going to be a cause of question for those top teams, which is what Villa obviously can do and is trying to do. So um, next, it's just the one we're obligated to talk about, right? I feel like
yeah,
every
we'll do
newspaper is
it.
contractually obligated. ManU, Liverpool, Liverpool sitting top of the table. ManU sitting one spot ahead of Newcastle in the table at sixth.
I just don't understand how.
I
Like,
don't know
I
how.
legitimately
They've
don't
got like
understand how.
7 losses. Um,
Do
they've
they still not have
honestly
a
like
draw? Do they have a draw?
no, they do not.
I didn't think so.
I
That's
need to ask
insane.
like the guys in England that I know, like, is it common to get almost 20 games into a season? I feel like that can't be common.
Yeah,
Like it's got to
it
be
can't
pretty
be.
dang rare.
If we hit week 20 and they haven't yet, I'll go digging and
We got to figure
look
it
up
out.
match week 20 standings
Yeah.
from here on out, because they're not drawn this week. I can tell you that much. So they'll at least get through match week 17 without a draw if they don't have one yet. Because Liverpool, like I just said about Villa, is absolutely incredible. Really, they're phenomenal away from home too. They're the
Mhm.
only, or they were the only EPL team to have gone into St. James's and win. They're a team that cannot be scared away on the road, but they're absolutely incredible at home. And man, does Mo Salah love playing against United. He has 16 goal contributions in 12 games. 12 of those goal contributions are goals. So he is averaging a goal a game against United, which just seems incredibly remarkable. Yes, in his time at Liverpool, ManU has been down compared to the ManU of old. But it is still really impressive seeing that
Sounds great.
kind
Yeah.
of goal record against a big six club, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Um, there was the 7-0 thrashing last year, Dylan. What do you think this game has to get to? Like, do you think that Ten Hag could possibly be sacked next week if this game is bad enough after the Champions League outing? Like
I,
in the
I don't.
leaks from the locker room, it feels like a 6-0 loss could just really be the
Yeah,
decapitation. So
the number in my head was like, would a 3-0 get him sacked? Because like a 3-0 against Liverpool is going to look ugly. Like they will
yeah,
dominate the game. It won't be like
yes,
they hit on the counter and get three and
it's a
just play a
3-0 that
low
probably
block
could have
or
been
anything.
5-0 sort of deal.
Right. So like part of me is like, I don't even know if he survives like a 3 or a 4-0. If it gets to 6-0, I think he's got to be gone. But in all reality, being realistic, I don't think he's going anywhere. At least not for this season,
Yeah,
unless shit really hits the fan. Like, yes, we make fun of them. Yes, they have 7 or 8 losses, but they are still sitting sixth in the table. Yes, they just got knocked out of Champions League after their fewest wins ever in Champions League group stage history for them. However, I think they invested a lot into him and a lot of trust into him. So just blowing it up a year and a half in, I don't think makes sense either.
yeah, and I think Man U fans need to adopt our mindset. Like they're still sitting six. Like it's okay. Man U fans think they should still be top, and let me tell you guys, that's never
Not
gonna be
happening.
y'all anymore unless y'all get like a Pep or another Alex Ferguson. It's just you guys aren't that anymore. I'm sorry. It's you need to accept being six and
And
be
they
thankful for it
haven't
because you should probably be ninth or 10th.
they
You know.
haven't been that in a while either, if we're being
Yeah.
honest. Like, yes, they
Yep.
won Carabao last year. Congrats, but like it's the Mickey Mouse Cup. Like, don't get me wrong, if Newcastle wins it, it's the most important cup in the whole world. But in the grand scheme of things, in like big picture, big clubs, it's a Mickey Mouse Cup. Like Man City is not going crazy excited about winning the Carabao unless it's part of like a treble.
Right.
So I think they need to kind of put themselves in check and be like, yep, we are a team that is going to finish anywhere from third to seventh year in, year out. Right now, you're sitting in sixth. So it is what it is. And
Mhm.
I'd be really hard pressed to see them firing Ten Hag. I think you and
Yeah.
I have both done a complete 180 since the hire. We were both very high on the hire, thought it would work. We've kind of both grown in our football knowledge since then and realized why it's
I've
not
read some
going to work.
books.
Yeah, you've been reading. So yeah, I would fire him, but
Louis Van
I
Gaal
don't think it's going to
2.0 right
happen.
there. Louis Van Gaal 2.0 at United, which I did not. It didn't even cross my mind because I didn't know that was a
Nope.
thing. We were so
Yep.
new when we started this.
We
You know
were.
how green we were. Um, yeah, but you talk about Carabao being a Mickey Mouse, but I think that's gone a long way with like him getting so much. Like he did win a trophy right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
and that I think that's gone a long way with kind of some feelings higher up about him in the club. So those might be running out. It will be seen if he makes it till the end of the year. I'm with you. I think he will, just because partially because the Glazers just don't want that like pressure of an in-season manager hire. Like with
Yeah.
all this going on, a Champions League exit, um, a lot of things are going wrong for United right now. Even though maybe if you're looking in on the Premier League from America and you see them sitting in sixth, they're like, oh, it's fine. But no, it's the expectations are different, even though they shouldn't be, for better or worse. So yeah, that's United. All right, our next game we're talking about. This is the one I decided to highlight. Dylan's actually letting me kind of go on deep dives, practice my deep dive analysis on some of these. Dylan, I'll let you say what you want to say about this West Ham and Wolves game, and then I'll kind of go into my satirical rants about what I think about it.
It's the battle of the mids, in
Battle
the
of the
nicest way
mid.
possible. Two mids that I actually am somewhat fond of. I know when you did your deep dive, you're kind of like, why the hell are you fond of these two teams? They're both just
No,
disgusting.
I like Wolves. I mean, I respect them. West Ham, it's like they're like
West Ham's West Ham's maddening. We were talking about it yesterday when we were doing show prep. Like, I just don't understand with how much like raw talent there is, and you go into it a little bit in your deep dive. But for somebody who's not quite as analytical or tactical, it's like they have so much raw talent. Like there's
yeah,
no excuse for them to be sitting in ninth. They are at worst, I got okay, so one place off. But in my head, I'm like they're at worst eighth when you look at talent. So they're right
mhm,
in that ballpark. But I really think they should be threatening, and we see it in Europa League. Like they won Conference League last year. They've looked very strong in Europa League this year. Like there is potential there. They just don't seem to put it together week in and week out. And I think part of that is the manager, is
yeah,
where they're playing players. They're they bought players not for the manager system. They bought players because they're good players, and I think that kind of
exactly, exactly.
rears its head against. sound tactical teams, and why they tend to struggle against well managed clubs.
Mhm.
They are without a clean sheet in the last 9 matches, though, and Wolves have scored every match this year outside of match week 1. So I am expecting some goals. I know that's kind of counterintuitive for Wolves matches if you followed them closely last year. One of the worst. I think they may have been the worst scoring team that didn't get relegated last year, possibly. Just absolutely atrocious goal scoring record this year.
They were the worst
When
goal scoring team for a lot of the year, I
Yeah, yeah,
think.
it
I'm
was
pretty
it was
sure.
terrible. But then this year they got off to a really hot start with goal scoring. Neto got injured. It started to cool down a little bit.
Yeah.
They do have a much more potent offense than they have in the past. So going to be interested to see if they can go into that nasty garbage bubble filled stadium and come away with some points because they had back to back losses last month. Have started to rebound a little bit, but this is one where I picked them 10th or 11th. If they're going to get up to that, currently sitting in 13th, this is like I really need to see at least a draw out of them this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think they can absolutely go to London and make that happen.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later, but I think a draw is like in my head, it's the most likely outcome in this game. But I'll start at the beginning. This game, it gives ew, like it gives off ew vibes to me. You've got a Midlands team that is nothing against the Midlands, like it just their defensive reputation. You go into the ManU, you're going to get a slugfight, and they don't really take any flair with them, especially with Neto out. And then West Ham, like calling them the Irons is like just the perfect. They're dull. They're a metal. Like they're not the strongest metal. They're not the weakest, but it's just like they're there. They're the Irons. Um, so yeah, I mean
That
that's
was
kind of
great.
it.
I love that. That is so spot on. Like it is really just
I
sinking
didn't
in
even
how
have that in my
perfect that
notes.
was. That is absolutely perfect.
Um, so you know, we talked about Brighton and Arsenal. You look at these two teams playing each other. They're 7-7-1, or both teams are 7-7-1 against each other. I'm sorry, 7-1-7 against each other in their last 15 with one draw. Where do we put the draw in the middle or at the end? What do you What do you
It's
normally do?
different if it's an American outlet or an English
Yeah,
outlet. I feel like I
that's
see
why I
both.
kind of confused myself.
I'm pretty sure it's
Um,
it's technically normally in the middle, but in American sports,
yeah,
it's normally at the end.
hockey has
But
it
I'm
at
pretty
the end,
sure,
right?
yeah, football has it at
Or
the
I guess
end
overtime loss. Yeah.
in the
Anyways,
rare case that it happens.
we digress on that one. So there's not going to be any like psychological warfare for you losers that believe in that. I'm one of those. You know, it's they're both teams are like fine. Like they have West Ham has more talent. Wolves have performed better comparatively to their talent. Wolves aren't good on the road. West Ham are average-ish at home. So it sounds like a ninth versus 14th place game. Like, and it is. And it's not a flashy game, which is kind of why we're going to talk about it. Not many people are probably going to be watching this game because of the ones that are on at the same time slot. So they're going to have all the freedom in the world without the eyes on them to make it ugly. And it's going to get ugly. West Ham had the eighth easiest schedule thus far, Wolves 14th. So they're almost like where they are sitting at the table, just flipped. West Ham sitting in ninth, obviously. Both have wins over Tottenham, so joy to the world on that.
Who
So why
didn't in
is
that
this?
window though?
Yeah, true, true. So why is this game interesting? It's kind of nothing stands out to you, or there's nothing to sell in this game. It's important because it's a swing game in the mid table, big time swing game because both teams could finish 8th or 14th. Which Palace is gonna they're gonna finish 12th, and probably not 8th, definitely not 8th, maybe 14th, but they're gonna be in that range. Both of these teams, I think, right now could, especially with Wolves getting Neto back, could end up where West Ham is right now. So it is a big swing game. And Boxing Day is coming up. We're getting to that replacement and reinforcement window. It's tactically interesting because neither team wants the ball like at all. It's
No.
it's gross. And you would think West Ham would want the ball because they play 7 midfielders on the field. But they're not able to possess the ball. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody takes control of this game. I think James Ward-Prowse has an opportunity to play in the midfield almost by himself in this one because Wolves play so far out wide. But if we start up top, I think West Ham lines up in a 4-4-3 or a 4-4-1-1 kind of. But they just got beaten that 4-4-1-1 5-0. So I'm thinking they're going to go back to the 4-3-3. If David Moyes, if you don't like, just leave. So Bowen in the middle, Paqueta on the left wing, and Kudus on the right wing.
What a
And
waste of Paqueta.
yeah, let's talk about that. So Jared Bowen's he's a winger. And he's been good up top. Like he scored a lot of goals.
Yeah, he has been
He
really
scored
good
all
this
of
year,
his goals
actually.
on the road though, -1, so he's at home. So we'll see. But Kudus is really the only out of those three that fits that wing profile. And everywhere technically has him as a right midfielder, but he can go up on the wing because he has the one-on-one ability. But when you play those players like that, it the space, which is paramount. It's the paramount intrinsic thing in a soccer game, creating space, using space right. West Ham setup and where they put their players position wise, it just throws all that out the window. It throws the concept of using space correctly out the window. And I think David Moyes might just be trying to get his best guys out there, even though that's just like, look at Pep. He hardly ever plays some players that have a formidable or a good backup who can kind of adapt to certain teams. He hardly ever plays those guys back to back, even though they're one of the highest paid players in the league. So from a tactical perspective, I think David Moyes has to do a lot better if anything's going to get better for West Ham this year. Paqueta, like we said, he's not a winger, and he does drop back a lot and kind of invert, which creates a whole lot of. I mean, I'll just introduce it now: the West Ham chaos theory. Let's look at their goals. Where do I have it in these notes? So the last goal they scored came against Tottenham with a pass back to Vicario that never got to Vicario. So it was basically just a one-on-one kind of penalty situation. Vicario dove, he was taken out of the play, and there was a goal scored. The other goal West Ham scored in the Tottenham game, it was a deflection off Davies' knee that went to Jared Bowen, who was just in no man's land, and had an easy shot on goal. And then you had a deflected goal in a 1-1 draw versus Palace. You had a brilliant effort on an own goal from Kudus, but it was an own goal. And you just look at all these goals they scored. Finally, against Burnley, they score a proper, albeit a pretty individual effort from, again, Mohamed Kudus. He found, I think
There's
it
a
was,
theme here.
yeah, it is. He found Souček on the back post. The ball was, I mean, he didn't even have to move his head. He just kind of put it there and went like that. Beautiful ball. But that's still not like a build up kind of a true earned goal. That's a really good soccer player goal. So West Ham, they score randomly. Their goals surprise you, and the opponents are usually pulling their teeth out when the goal scored because they know it was preventable. And Wolves is pretty organized defensively. They're not known for like really being leaky at the back. So West Ham might not be able to rely on that quite as much. However, if we look at the the Wolves front line, it's very depleted, even just with one player out. Neto's their engine up top. And the other two guys that they have up there who are relied on scoring goals, Kuna and Hechan, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they're both good. Hechan. Okay. Yeah. It sounded weird to me at first for some reason. Both their heat maps look like box to box midfielders. So it's kind of interesting. Like you pointed out to me that Wolves are like towards the top of the table in progressive carries in the opponent half. And we both know it's because they're given so much space because other teams know they're not
Nobody's
going to
scared
pick
of
them
them,
apart.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So neither team really utilizes space or utilizes kind of technical ability to score goals. So you're going to get I have the prediction is 2-1 West Ham, even though I wanted to go 1-1 draw. But I think you're going to get 3. You're going to get a set piece goal from somebody. You're probably going to get a chaos goal. And then I gave Jared Bowen a goal up top just to.
We don't have to guess who the somebody is.
Yeah, it's Kudus.
No,
exactly.
set piece is gonna come
set
from
piece
James
or
Ward.
cross. Yeah.
I mean, who has not been? I mean, he's not been bad, but man, it was like he was scoring every week from set pieces. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Whatever it was.
Every year.
But there was
David
like a
Beckham James Ward-Prowse is the best free kick.
There was
taker
like
in
a
the history of
2-month
the league.
stretch where I swear he scored a set piece in every fucking game, and it was the only way Southampton was scoring. But I just haven't seen quite the same since he's gone to West Ham. So yeah, I kind of I'd be a sneaky nice bet. See what the odds are on him scoring this weekend.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think against a Wolves, like you said, that is typically pretty organized in the back. That'd be a really good way for them to get one. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's going to be a 2-1. I'm not sure if I would lean West Ham or Wolves, but I think this is a 3-goal match.
West Ham's gonna give up a goal.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah,
their neck gets snapped occasionally, like last week versus Fulham, but they're generally a bend break every game, but not too badly break. So it's not going to be a high scoring game probably, but there will be goals scored because just of the elements surrounding it. Midfields will kind of be non-existent weirdly in this game. Like we said, Wolves play so out wide, and West Ham plays with so many midfielders that it just not much happens there because there's just so much confusion going
congestion,
on.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's kind of it for this one. It's just interesting because it feels like a pub game in so many ways. Like, just get the guys out there, let them go at it, and kind of play wherever you want to, sort of deal.
Just show up the pitch. All right, who's playing? I swear that's
Yeah.
what they do at West Ham. It's like, all right, who wants to play on the left today? Who wants to play in the center? Like, fine, all right, Paqueta, you can play in the center today. Fine,
Yeah.
I'll let you do it.
Yes,
yeah,
we know you're going to come central. We know you're going to come central. Just stand out there for now.
It's like playing clubs online in FIFA. It's like,
yeah,
damn, I got stuck at left wing.
That.
I got stuck at left wing, but I really like playing central. So let me invert and just hang out. And somebody goes to take the ball up the left, and where the hell's Paqueta? It kind of feels that way sometimes. Like he's a phenomenal player, but again, just doesn't really fit what Moyes is trying to do there. He's a guy
needed to go to a club with at least one other Brazilian and just a more fun club. Like, he looks like he's just depressed at West Ham a lot of the time, man.
You know what? It would have been a great fit.
Yes, he would have had a lot of fun at Newcastle.
Full on Brazilian midfield would have been. I mean, it would have been some shithousery. Just every week, one of those three is getting a card. Absolutely, especially if they feed off each other. But yeah, I honestly still can't believe he's not at Newcastle. But I hope he enjoys playing out on the wing. Have fun, buddy. You're on kind of my shit list now, unless you change your mind and decide to come in the summer or something.
Yeah. That's really all I have to say for this game. I'm not going to drag this out to 45 minutes, but it will be a very highly watched extended highlights because, there's going to be something that happens in the game, but there are some other good games in that time slot that people probably have their
I think every game we talked about is on Sunday. I don't think we obviously didn't talk about the Friday match, and we didn't talk about any Saturday matches.
We didn't talk about Newcastle or Tottenham either, which is the first time in the history of this podcast that we have not highlighted.
Good work. Proud of us. Yeah. No, I'm excited.
We still went over 30 minutes.
Right. I think this is a fun format, though. Probably have to tighten it up a little on the deep preview, but I just feel like there's a lot of people doing recaps, so it's a little different for us. Kind of get to show off some of our predictive knowledge. Well, at least you do, and I'm still trying to learn that and have some of it rub off on me. So yeah, it was fun. I'm excited to make these kind of a more regular feature for us. Typically going to probably try and get these to come out on Thursdays, not Fridays, but didn't happen last night. So we'll let you guys look forward to the next one dropping on Thursday. Watch it on your lunch hour on a Friday, and then get ready for the weekend.
Yep. We appreciate you guys watching as always. We need to get those numbers up. So share with your friends. Subscribe, comment.
Comment. Please comment a period for all I care. You watch this.
You can be negative if you want to. We can take it.
Tear us apart.
Start a discussion because if we see comments in there that are interesting, it helps us for the next episodes because then we can mention it and either agree and say, oh yeah, I'll concede this, or we can explain our points better. It just helps us grow as soccer fans and things like that. Absolutely. We always say this is our visual representation, our visual journal of us learning the sport. That's why we do it. We're not doing it for a huge audience right now, although we would like to. However, you guys commenting, kind of keeping the discussion going is important for us. So go ahead and start doing that, please.
If you've made it this long and you don't leave a comment, kick rocks, but please leave a comment.
What are you even doing? Yeah, what are you even doing? We'll talk to y'all next time. Have a good week.
See you guys.